What does a vengeful spirit and an old case from Batman's past have in common? Well, let's hop into the pages of Batman and Robin issue number 15 and find out together, shall we? So then, picking up directly from where the last issue had left off, Bruce and Damian were attending a special fundraising event at the Sacred Heart Medical Facility, only for the building to come under attack. Batman had managed to subdue the gunman, but after venturing deeper into the building, he discovered a secret sub-basement wherein a fire was started, seemingly by the vengeful spirit of Nicodemus Crow. Without any of his traditional Batman gear, Bruce is forced to knuckle up and escape the burning building by grabbing onto a molten chain and pulling his way up little by little in an act of what can only be described as an act of insane physical fortitude. Upstairs, Damian Wayne also throws himself into action right away, trying to save as many people as possible from the growing flames. In fact, the comic does a really nice job juxtaposing father and son both trying to push themselves for the greater good. Ultimately, Batman is able to escape the basement and Robin is able to turn on the sprinklers, putting out the fire. The only problem is that this is a very old building and the structural integrity has been greatly compromised. Damian is able to quickly get Dr. Bashir out of the way of a falling chandelier. Unfortunately, the little girl who Damian was talking to in the last issue isn't nearly as lucky, getting crushed under falling debris, and honestly, I was actually shocked by this. They show it to you and everything, and unsurprisingly, it's pretty damn hard to watch. Sadly, though, the next bit completely takes me out of the story as Damian admits to Dr. Bashir that he doesn't know what to do in this situation, which is goddamn ridiculous. You've been a superhero for how long? How many crisis events have you been involved in? How many team-ups? In all that time, you never learned CPR? You never learned basic first aid? I mean, it would be one thing if Damian just froze up because of the emotional taxingness of this situation, but no, he actively says he doesn't know what to do, and Bashir has to walk him through CPR. Needless to say, on the ride home with Bruce, Damian blames himself for everything that happened. And Bruce tries his best to get his son's mind off of all of that by working the case. Damian says that he saw a man in a long coat and a mask bar the door before the fires actually started. Then, of course, there's still that piece of evidence regarding Memento Mori, that thing that those guys on the street kept saying. Batman says that all of these events are very similar to a particular serial killer case that Bruce worked in his youth when he wasn't much older than Damian back in London. You won't be surprised to find out that that serial killer also called himself Memento and ran around dressed like Jack the Ripper, complete with British riding coat and a plaster death mask like the one we saw put on Nicodemus Crow in the first issue. Also, I didn't mention it in the first issue, so it's actually kind of nice to see this one headed off at the pass. The idea that so many different comics use the Memento Mori concept to the point it's not even original anymore. When Batman and Robin return home, they decide to train. Damian has a lot of steam to blow off, and it's made abundantly clear that he's really spiraling right now. He says that he has all of the skills that his father has amassed, but none of the direction. What is he supposed to do? What is his reason to live? Which again, to me, just reeks of characterization rubber banding, as literally the last couple Joshua Williamson stories were all about Damian trying to find his place in the world, and him actually succeeding. But oh no, wait, I guess we can't have any drama in this story if Damian is well adjusted, so we need to reset a bunch of his character growth. For what it's worth, though, Bruce actually does go into good father mode and actually ends up finding a rather interesting outlet for Damian to deal with his problems. Mainly, he thinks it's high time that Damian actually learn about the Wayne side of his family. In particular, his father, Thomas Wayne. Wouldn't you know it, in Thomas's journals, we learned that he was actually quite the gifted artist, not unlike Damian is now with his comic work. And also, hey, for the record, isn't it really weird right now in November 2024, all the main Batman books are dealing with stuff left behind by Thomas Wayne? Like, do you think this is just the hugest coincidence in the world, or do we think all the Bat writers actually sat down and said, no, that's what we're gonna be doing this month? It's after that we get treated to a fun little flashback to Bruce's early years as a junior detective in London. It seems that he studied under famous Scotland Yard detective Atticus Bligh, which is literally right up there with Nicodemus Crow in the holy shit that's a cool name department. It was while working the Memento case, Bligh went out of his way to try and teach Bruce to think beyond his preconceived notions, to try and get inside a killer's head and understand what they really want, even if they seem crazy. It's also here we learn that one of the trademarks of the Memento murders was actually recreating old crimes from the past. Furthermore, Memento actually has quite the fan following online, who love to swap top fan theories about what the Memento killings really mean and who might be under the mask, not unlike how people still talk about the Zodiac killings to this day. It's with this information in hand, Batman and Robin return to Sacred Heart now that they know this newest fire bombing was meant to reference the old fire from the 1800s. Oh, but it gets even more interesting. Apparently those gunmen that Batman had beaten up in the last issue actually had nothing to do with the fire bombing itself. They were here to hurt Dr. Bashir due to his political beliefs regarding Black Adam. They seemingly had no idea about Memento or the Memento killer, though they were actively armed by a third party, which certainly makes things more interesting. Now, another interesting thing you've probably noticed too is that Batman has not gone out of his way to tell his son about his run-in with the ghost of Nicodemus Crow from the last issue, and that's because Batman actively believes that none of what is going on is actually paranormal and that there is a perfectly reasonable explanation underneath this all. And in fact, he might be right, because as the comic comes to a close, we switch on over to the Gotham docks, wherein we see underutilized Scott Snyder villain Tiger Shark is taking in an illegal shipment tonight for the Penguin. However, the ship doesn't stop at the docks, it just keeps going, after it looks like the ship has been commandeered by the ghostly visage of the Memento killer, who may or may not also be the ghost of Nicodemus Crow. Again, it's getting a little complex, isn't it? And so that was Batman and Robin issue number 15, everybody, and I'm happy to say I liked it a lot more than the issue that preceded it, but still a lot of the same nagging problems persist, mainly in the way that Damian is being characterized right now. I get that every comic is someone's first and they wanted a fresh new creative start for this series, but it's just a shame to see so much great character work seemingly thrown out. Robin just seems so much more unsure, untested, and immature than he ever has been before. Again, I'm sure that will change by the end of this arc, but still, it's just a tough pill to swallow. For what it's worth, though, I actually love the idea about Damian trying to explore the Wayne side of his family. As Bruce says in this issue, you come from a lot more than just superheroes and super assassins. You come from a long line of healers and builders, and you can be too. The actual Memento stuff I'm a little hot or cold on, mainly because I'm 90% sure that Bashir either is the Memento killer or is somehow connected to all of this, because why would you introduce a new character like this and then not have them be the villain? I feel like we've seen this type of story 100 times before. Ultimately, though, I would give this one a 7 out of 10, and I am interested enough to check out the next issue as well. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.